This is a 50-gallon drum that I bought on Craigslist, and I'm going to make it into a rain barrel that looks like a whiskey barrel, kind of like how almond milk resembles regular milk. They're similar, but they're really two different things. I drilled a 3/4 inch hole for the overflow, and that was actually a little too snug for the fitting, so then I went in with a file and I widened it a little bit. In hindsight, I probably could have drilled a 1-inch hole. Some rain barrels have a big lid that will allow you to access the inside. This one just had these two little caps. So I had to fish the fitting that goes on the inside of the rain barrel down to the overflow hole using a coat hanger. I use this little right angle pick just to hold the fitting snug while I tighten down the outside ring. Next, I marked the center on the drum, and I used that to find the angle on all the lumber I was about to cut. It was roughly 7 degrees, so I set the table saw blade to that angle, and then I cut a couple test pieces. That was successful, so then I got to work cutting the edges of 23 pieces of pressure-treated lumber so they would fit nicely together all around the outside of the rain barrel. First I cut one edge, then I moved the fence over a touch and cut them all again. One of those pieces had to cover the overflow, so here I'm using a 1-inch hole saw on my drill press to cut out that hole. I put 22 pieces in place and tightened them down with a strap, and then I still had a little gap to fill. So I cut piece number 23 to the width of the gap, and once that was in place, the outside was complete. Then it was time for the straps. A real whiskey barrel would probably use steel. Hey, get some gloves, dude. But mine is going to have aluminum because I don't want them to rust. Fortunately, I still had some aluminum flashings sitting around from a previous project that I was able to cut into 3-inch strips. I attached the straps first with some nails that I made sure were not long enough to puncture the barrel, and I wrapped them around and pre-drilled some holes for stainless steel screws to complete the look. And I did that a total of 4 times. Then it was time for the lid, and unlike a regular whiskey barrel, my lid needed to be removable. You'll notice that I left the outside boards about 1.5 inches higher than the top of the barrel. That was so that I could put some cross braces down inside that cavity and they would keep the lid from shifting around in the weather. Here I've got the cross braces cut to the exact diameter of the barrel, and I'm going to finish off the lid with some scraps of pressure-treated lumber. I'm pre-drilling holes for all the fasteners, and I'm doing everything from the underside of the lid so that once this thing is flipped over, you won't see any screw heads. Now I'm marking the center of the lid, and I'm going to find a radius that's the same as the barrel itself. I'm actually scratching this circle in with a nail because the wood was still too wet to use a pencil. Yes. Oh wait, how about that? No. This way or that way? I think I like it that way. The first way I had it. Yep, that way. Double check. No. Yes. Perfect. So this is kind of a trash can lid, and I get that. But it's necessary for how I plan on using it, which you'll see in just a second. And first, I have to drill one more hole, and that's an inlet hole for where the water's gonna come in. And with that, we're pretty much done. I've been down here working on this thing all day. I'm finally finished. My wife is about to take the dog for a walk. I haven't said anything to her about what this is gonna look like, other than she kind of knows it's gonna look like a whiskey barrel. So I'm going to leave this camera set up and see if I can get a genuine reaction from her.
Oh my God, how cool! Oh my God, look at that. Look at that handle. Whoa! Oh my God, that's so cool. We should have recorded that. Oh, you are!
So my wife is very expressive, and surprising her is one of my favorite parts about building stuff. Now the other reason I went to all this trouble is because this rain barrel is going to sit in a very prominent part of our backyard, basically right at the corner of our back porch. We used a piece of cardboard to move this thing into place because a lot of the wood isn't secured permanently, it's just held in place by the aluminum straps. And then I built a little brick platform for this to rest on to keep it above the grass. In one of my previous videos, I built a clear roof over our back porch, and that is the rainwater that this rain barrel is going to be collecting. In another video, I made a custom gutter from a roll of aluminum flashing, and a lot of you liked it. Some of you did not like it. Chief among your complaints was the fact that I used a garden hose as a downspout. And to those of you who called this out, I'd like to say, you're not wrong. A 3/4 inch garden hose is no substitute for a 4-inch downspout. It's also not the most visually pleasing option, but now you'll see what I had in mind. I have the garden hose draining into the rain barrel, and then there's an overflow where I put an L-shaped garden hose bib on, and I have the excess draining out into the yard. So what the garden hose gives up in volume, it gives back in flexibility. I can keep this 2-stage system hooked up during the summer to irrigate my lawn, and then in the winter, I just bypass the rain barrel, hook the garden hose back up to itself, and then I don't have to worry about anything freezing. And before you send a bunch more comments about the whole garden hose, downspout, gutter system, I just want to point out that it's been several months since I installed this thing. We've had several torrential downpours, a lot of heavy snow, and it's held up fine. I just have to make sure that it doesn't clog. It did freeze on me once, so I had to take care of that problem. Otherwise, feel free to keep commenting and just know that I hear you. Now let's talk about irrigation. The part of the yard that I want to water is uphill from the rain barrel. So I got this transfer pump and I'm going to pump the water out of the barrel to a sprinkler.
Just can't tell if it's down there all the way. You can't see it. Because I'm a genius, I took a clear jug and covered up all the clearness so that I can't see into it. I'm gonna have to improve upon this part of the process. I had the hose on backwards, so. Helps to check the arrow. This is like my Doc Brown from Back to the Future moment.
You seriously just walked into that?
And it's nice and quiet.
Yeah, it's like really peaceful and relaxing. Sit out here and read a book.
So you'll notice that I didn't put a drain in the bottom of the rain barrel because I'm pumping everything out of it uphill. Also, it would have been really tricky to snake a fitting down there, but it is possible, and at some point I may do it, although I'll have to lift it up off the ground a bit more. I also didn't talk very much about the transfer pump that I just used, and that's because I'm working on another irrigation video collecting water off the roof of my shed, and I promise to go into more detail about the pump in that video. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that video and what has become kind of a 4-part series starting with the roof over the porch. And I hope you'll tell me what you think, because even if your reaction is not as excited as my wife's, I still appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.